Well, one of my favourite questions is, let's presume you get this role, we're appointing you. What are the first things that you'd like to do? So that's one question. Another question I like asking people is, if you were me, what would you do? So they might be going for they're going for a particular role, but it's always good to get independent feedback from people about what they would do if they were in my shoes. So I do like asking that question as well.
Yeah.
And you get some great answers.
Yeah. Does any come to mind as who's given a good answer?
I started volunteering.
It's all about who you know in sport.
Am I going to be calling the last 10 seconds of the grand final?
You can connect with the interviewer. The hand goes up when they've got to make a decision.
Having a network is one of the most important things you can do.
I didn't necessarily follow my passion. I followed my curiosity.
Once you've worked in sport, there's no going back.
And then lo and behold, before I left, I got offered too.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry, brought to you by Deakin University, home to the world's #1 sports science school. My name is Ruben Williams. I'm the founder of Sports Grad, where we've helped people land 757 roles in sport. And if you want to give yourself a competitive advantage in the job market and build a career you absolutely love, go to our website and apply for the next cohort of the Sports Grad Method program. Now, on this podcast, it is my role to help you progress your career with advice and insights from people living the dream in sport. So if that's for you, hit subscribe to get closer to that dream job in sport. Now, coming up on the show today is President of the Hawthorn Football Club, Mr. Andy Gowers. Andy is an AFL premiership player who played 140 games across Hawthorn and Brisbane, including Hawthorn's 1991 grand final win. After retiring from the AFL, he transitioned into the corporate world with a successful career in wealth management before returning to the Hawks as football director from 2014 to 2017, helping to win 2 premierships and completing the historic three-peat. In 2022, Andy was elected President of Hawthorn, stepping in during a complex and challenging period for the club, including strained relationships with some of its Indigenous players, and taking on the responsibility of restoring unity and trust within the club community. He now leads the Hawks into a new chapter, overseeing major projects like the world-class facility, the Kennedy Community Centre, while building up the culture of the family club. If you want to learn what goes on at the very top of an AFL club, the role of a president, Andy's career journey, and how to lead a football club off the field, or how to combine your business with sporting passions, you'll absolutely love this episode. Grab a pen and enjoy this chat with Andy Gowers. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode today, just a quick note to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Deakin University, home to the world's #1 sports science school. But whether you're into sports science, management, coaching, or business, Deakin gives you the chance to study what you love and turn it into a career. Andy Gowers, welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast.
Thanks, Ruben. It's an absolute honour to be here.
Now, I'm not sure if we've crossed paths before, but I believe I played in the St. Mary's Reserves with your son, Tom. Did you ever get down and watch him?
I did indeed. And loved watching St. Mary's play and watching Tom. So it's always a pleasure watching your kids do things. And Tom, since he was born, has loved footy. And he had a great time at St. Mary's and very fond memories of watching him run around.
Amazing. Where does watching your kids grow up and play sport kind of stack in all the different things that you've done in sport?
Oh, it's near the top. I think any time whether it was my daughter doing ballet or running, I was thinking, I don't know why, but I was thinking of a story of her when she was a young primary school kid in Brisbane, and how when she used to run, she'd run with a smile on her face because she was just a joyous person and hardly a competitive bone in her body, which is very different to me. So watching her run, and she was a very gifted runner, but just wasn't there to win or push the boundaries. But that was fun watching her do anything that she wanted to do, and same with our boys, Tom and Bill, whether it be cricket, golf, footy, running, whatever it was. Always loved watching them try their best and have fun and enjoy themselves.
Amazing. Well, we always start this podcast with a few quick-fire questions to help people get to know you a bit better.
Sure.
First one I've got for you was, what was your first ever job?
My first ever job, I think, was as a storeman so a family friend had a business in the 80s called the Cargo Hold, and it sold a lot of cane-style furniture that was imported from different parts of Asia, and he had retail stores in different shopping centres, and the warehouse was in Richmond, and this was a holiday job that I would do where I'd go in and very menial tasks. I'd be sweeping the floor, I'd be packing boxes, I'd be putting the boxes on trolleys to take to the trucks to go out to the stores. Sometimes I'd go out with the truck driver to those stores and help him unload if it was a big load. So just general sort of work in the factory, or the warehouse, I should say. And yeah, I don't think it paid very much, but it kept me busy during particularly the summer holidays. Mm-hmm. And the family friend who was a great mate of my late father's, a guy called Peter Spring, was a real legend, just a great fella, and it was fun working there.
Amazing. And what did you study at university?
So I started off doing an arts degree. I didn't quite get the marks to get into the marketing course that I wanted to do, so I started in arts. And I remember going to the bathroom one time and seeing written on the side of the wall near the toilet roll holder, arts degrees, feel free to take one. And which I did. It did make me laugh at the time. But I was always transferring into marketing, eventually did that, so finished off my marketing degree, and that was at what was the Caulfield Institute of Technology and became Monash Caulfield.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you did better than me. I dropped out of a marketing degree before going into sport, so well done there. Your favourite sporting moment?
It's got to be the premiership that I played in with Hawthorn. And in terms of the moment, I suppose the final siren is the moment that immediately comes to mind. I actually got whacked by Don Pike just before the final siren. I gave a handball to a teammate, Ben Allen, and Don Pike gave me a whack around the chops. So I was on the ground feeling sorry for myself. Then the siren went, and I completely forgot about my pain, and celebrated with my teammates. So I think that's got to be it.
Amazing. And what about outside of football?
Well, I had a hole-in-one once playing golf. I'm a very keen golfer. Mm-hmm. Didn't see the ball go into the hole. It was on the 7th West at Royal Melbourne, where I'm a member. So I don't know whether you know that hole, but you can't actually see this particular day you couldn't see the actual hole. Thought I'd lost my ball, and then eventually looked in the hole and it was in there. So that was amazing. And you asked before about watching kids, seeing my older son Tom is a very good golfer. So watching him compete at pennant level and do well in some club championships and so on, and when I've caddied for him, they've been really good moments. And my younger son Bill, when he made his debut for the Western Bulldogs, that was a pretty amazing moment. And even recently, a couple of weeks ago, he made his debut for the University of Hawaii. So he's punting in the college system over there. So that was a great thrill as well.
And what about when he debuted for the Aussie Raiders in the Pro Kabaddi League?
The Kabaddi, that was another proud moment too. That was a bit of fun. I mean, that was at the time overshadowed by the fact that we had no idea what was going on. We had no idea what the rules were. We didn't even know what the game stood for. But over the course of, it's probably played over an hour, I reckon we worked out 80% of what was happening.
Yep.
I reckon the key 20% was completely lost on us, but that was fun watching him do that.
Yeah, incredible spectacle. When you are interviewing people for any sort of role, be it a coach, player, employee, intern, what's a favourite question that you like to ask of people?
Well, one of my favourite questions is, let's presume you get this role, we're appointing you. What are the first things that you'd like to do? So that's one question. Another question I like asking people is, if you were me, what would you do? So they might be going for a particular role, but it's always good to get independent feedback from people about what they would do if they were in my shoes. So I do like asking that question as well.
Yeah.
And you get some great answers.
Yeah. Does any come to mind as who's given a good answer?
I can't think of any specific example, but because they're coming in with it, they're either not expecting that question, and B, you're getting a completely independent view about something, and so they do look at things through a different lens. I think getting that perspective can be really helpful.
And what is one book or podcast that's helped you with your career?
Oh, Ruben, that is such a hard question for me because I'm an avid reader, and going back to those uni days, at secondary school, I was not. I was a student, but I wasn't a learner. I was there to play sport and have fun with my classmates and schoolmates. So I really did the bare minimum to float through the system and not get kicked out. But when I hit uni, I used to buy personal development and business books on top of my course books. And it was at that age, so sort of 18, 19, that I really started to read avidly and read. I've always been keen on reading, but read for the sake of learning, not just for the sake of entertainment. So my sort of go-tos, I mean, off air you mentioned the 4-Hour Workweek. I love that. Tim Ferriss. I think the other books, Give and Take is a great book, which I recommend to a lot of people. In fact, of late I've been recommending that to a lot of people, and the power of being a giving person.
Yep.
And how you get a lot more back than you give.
Yep.
With the right spirit and so on. In terms of business, I love a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
So when you hear the phrase, you need to work on your business, not in your business, that is something that is accepted now, but that was fairly new. I think he wrote that book in the late 80s, early 90s. And that was a new concept when I learned about that at the time. I could go on.
Yeah. I'm very similar. I think scraped through school, just like learning for the sake of it to get through. And then similar to you, was like, okay, now that I have a business and want to learn, let's actually take an interest in it. And so you're the first person to come into this new studio that we've got. And
really?
On the shelf behind me, all the books that have helped build SportsGrad. So the 4-Hour Workweek is there, but the E-Myth is also in there as well.
Really?
So that was
There
one of
you
the
go.
first books I read to kind of help my business journey too.
Well, I went and saw Michael Gerber speak live in Melbourne in the early 2000s. And it was an amazing talk that he gave. And it wasn't just about the E-Myth itself. It was about the concepts more broadly. And there was a pivotal moment during that. I think it was a half day. And there was a pivotal moment where he asked the audience, and I reckon there were probably 300 or 400 people in the audience. It was at the Arts Centre here in Melbourne. And at one point he said, what is the only reason to have a business? And all these hands went up. And he said, shout out the answers. And someone said, to make more money. Wrong. To be more flexible. Wrong. To have more choice. Wrong. To be the boss. Wrong. No one got the right answer, according to him. And he said, the only reason to have a business is so that you can sell it. Because if you can't sell your business, you don't have a business. You have a job. You just happen to employ yourself. And that concept absolutely rammed home for me. And in later years, I started a business and we sold it, and it sold very well, and it was very saleable. And that principle has always guided my movements in business ever since. And so I owe a lot to Michael Gerber. Haven't met him in person, but he's had a big impact on my business career and my life, really.
Have you read Built to Sell by?
Yes.
Yep.
Certainly have.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can trade a lot.
I've got a whole library of those sorts of books. So we'll compare notes off here about other books.
Absolutely. Last one for you. If you had 30 minutes to pick anybody's brain, who would it be and why?
I think Richard Branson, for a couple of reasons. One, I think his entrepreneurial pathway and journey, and it still continues to this day, is inspirational. I count him as a mentor, and a bit like Michael Gerber, haven't met Richard Branson, and that leads me into the second reason, because I'd love to meet him. I'd love to spend some time with him and compare some notes and have a heart to heart with him. It'd be a privilege.
Just on that note, because we have a lot of people listen to the podcast who trying to get into sport, and one of the difficult challenges I have is meeting people in the industry. If you were to try to get to someone like Richard Branson in the position that you're in, how might you go about it? Hey guys, quick one. Are you either A, dreading going back to work tomorrow, or B, on a mission to fulfill your potential and get there as quickly as possible? If so, then you need to apply for the SportsGrad Method program. The program is designed to help you get a full-time job in sport as quickly as possible, and inside it, I distill the lessons I've learned from asking over 300 people how they got a job in sport. I'm talking professionals from the AFL, Premier League, cricket, NBA, Olympics, you name it. And I've combined it with the methods that not only got me hired by Cricket Australia before graduating, but also helped me double my salary during COVID. SportsGrad has helped people land over 700 roles in sport, and this program takes the guesswork out of an industry where most people think you need to get lucky. To apply for the Sportsgrad Method program, head to www.sportsgrad.com.au/program. All right, back to the episode.
Well, I actually have a friend who has made a bit of a career out of getting into doors that look impossible. And I'll give you one quick story about it, which will give you some idea as to how I would go about it. In fact, you've probably given me the needle that I needed to meet Richard. But look, I've got a friend, and he does this for a living. He helps people meet the people that they want to connect with. And with a particular, so I won't say the names, I won't say the organisation, but he had a very close friend that wanted to meet the CEO of an extraordinarily big company in Australia. And his friend was lamenting the fact that he was never going to be able to get in the door and meet him. And my friend, his name is John Burgess, he said, I'll get you in. And he said, you'll never be able to do that. He said, you watch. So he researched the hell out of the CEO, and he understood that this guy was passionate about golf. So he went to a cake shop, and he had a cake made with the CEO's name on it, and he had a golf scene etched into the cake with icing and some kind of elaborate setup on top of the cake. Maybe a golf stick and a ball and a flag, perhaps.
Yep.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but a golf scene. Then he went with his friend to head office, and there were a number of people on the front desk, and he went up to someone who was available, and they said, can we help you? And he said, yes. This is a gift for the name of the CEO. And they said, is he expecting it? And he said, no, he's not. He said, I only ask one thing. Would his assistant come down and collect this gift? And so they were bemused, and so they ring upstairs and they speak to the assistant. The assistant comes down, dying to know who this person is and why the hell there's a cake. And John says, look, my friend here wants 10 minutes with your boss. We know he loves golf. We hope you and the rest of the staff enjoy the cake on us. And if it's okay with you, my friend here would just like 10 minutes, not today, but another time that you might be able to find. And of course, he gets the appointment and he gets his 10 minutes. And it turned out to be more than 10 minutes.
Amazing.
And the business deal, gets started. So there's always a way in. And but you've got me thinking now, Reuben.
I'll have to check back in and see how you're going, Richard.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, before we dive into kind of the role of president and what kind of goes on at a board level, could you share with us the series of experiences and jobs and different things you've done from your playing career to now? Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll condense it. So when I left uni, I touched on the financial planning area before, but so had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school, but I knew I wanted to be a business owner. I've always been entrepreneurial, and that's why I did marketing, because I figured whatever I get into, it's going to need marketing. You've got to be good at sales and marketing. And my late father was a sales and marketing person. So it was sort of in my blood, I think. And it was a friend of mine who sort of guided me into the wealth management financial planning area because he suggested, look, trustworthiness, putting good advice together and being able to attract clients are the three keys to the best financial planning firms that I've seen, because he was working with the Financial Planning Association, one of the peak bodies in that industry. And after a bit of research and meeting some of the leaders in that industry that he put me in touch with, I agreed with him that it would be it was an exciting industry. And at that point, so I'm talking late 90s, it really was a cottage industry and was a long way off finding its feet, to be honest. So I had a good window into what it could look like in the future. And also I was very fortunate because the people that I was meeting, they were explaining to me that charging a fee for your service is what they were doing at that stage, which was, believe it or not, cutting edge. Most people were charging or being paid by commission. So there's inherently a conflict when you get paid by commission because you earn more when you sell more. Whereas if you're charging a fee for your service, that's a natural contract with your client. So I had a window into what that future looked like, and so I worked at ANZ Bank for a couple of years. I met my future business partner at ANZ, Anud Shangle, and he and I ended up setting up a business called Time Advice. And Time Advice was a boutique wealth management business that Anuj and I operated together. And Anuj was a genius at putting advice together, and I brought the work in the door. So I guess I channeled the marketing background and business development background that I had. I love helping people, and I thought, well, because the roadblock for me in terms of helping people in that field was I was good at talking about the concepts and breaking down complex scenarios into simple everyday language. But my strong suit was not putting the advice together. That was Anuj's strong suit. So the two of us were the yin and yang of wealth management. And we built a really good business. We sold it together in just around COVID time, 2021. And then I moved into the world of succession planning. So I'd seen enough disaster situations where families typically, but sometimes business owners, had succession issues that they either hadn't addressed properly or not at all. And this actually had put at risk all of their wealth. And I thought, maybe we've got this the wrong way round. We're spending a lot of time on their wealth planning. We should also be spending time alongside, at least, if not at the forefront, helping families and business owners with succession. So, what's going to happen when mum and dad are no longer here with the house or houses, the super, the wealth, the farm, for example. So that's what I specialise in now. And the other thing that I do is I help people with what I call elite performance advice. So I've got various ways of delivering that. So some one-on-one advice, so call it coaching if you like, retreats, workshops, those sorts of things. And I was very fortunate, Ruben, at the age of 21. I got drafted by Hawthorn in 1988. So I was 18, straight out of school. And I basically had access to the best of the best to enable my performance to be the best. And that included things that were good for my body and also things that were good for my mind. And the breakthrough for me happened in my performance on the field when I started working with a sports psychologist, a guy by the name of Anthony Stewart. And Stewie was brilliant for me, and I resisted seeing him for a while. I thought, I don't need any help. I don't need to see a shrink. What do I need that for? Anyway, not much was going the way I wanted it to in my life in all areas, and I thought, I've got nothing to lose here. I'll go and meet with Stewie. And he helped me to completely reframe the way I thought about things. So I was asking myself too many negative questions, and the brain naturally kicks into solution mode. When you ask it a negative question, it feeds you all the negative answers. Why am I not? Why does the coach not like me? For these 7 reasons. Why do I keep getting injured? Here are 8 reasons why you keep getting injured. Why have I missed 2 premierships? Here are all the reasons why you haven't played in a premiership yet. And so these things were circulating in my brain and in my mind, and I was getting worse and worse. So he helped me reframe those questions and taught me how to journal, which I still do today. And he taught me to reframe the question, so rather than asking yourself, how come I've missed 2 premierships? Why? What can I do to play in the next premiership? How can I help lead the charge where we can win the next premiership? Why does the coach love me?
Yep.
And a follow-up question is, what can I do so that the coach really loves me? And so on. And so I applied that thinking and those habits and those just being consistent with those things. And things have gone, on the whole, things have gone well ever since.
You stepped back into Hawthorn, I believe, around that the three-peat era.
Yes.
How did that kind of mix in with your business venture as well?
Yeah. Look, it mixed in pretty well. So what happened was Jason Dunstall, who was the director of football up until that stage, rang me and said, would you consider taking on this role after me? I'm due to step aside because we have term limits at Hawthorn. And I said, oh, look, I need to know more about it. I want to know how much time's involved and what you actually do and whether I could fit that in to my business program and so on. And over a series of, a small number of chats, he explained to me what it entailed, and also that I could mould the role to a degree with what worked for me. So he was working, still does, works in the media, and for him, he was fairly available through the week, but not on the weekend because he was calling games. Whereas I was the opposite. I was busy during the week with my business, and I was available on the weekend. So I guess made sure I was at every game. I hardly missed a game in the what was it? Sort of four and a half years that I was footy director at the time. But I didn't get there much during the week. I got there when I could. Occasionally went to Bunjil, Bagora, Waverley Park, when I could get there. But so I did it the way that sort of suited me, and it fitted in well with business. I loved the concept of giving back to the club that had given me so much. And yeah, it worked really well. And of course, on the back of, frankly, Jason's amazing work and a lot of other people around the club, it was a very successful era. And, the club, we had certain issues that we faced, but to a large degree, it felt like we were on autopilot. We had an amazing list of players. We had a super successful era. It was fun.
So 2022, you step into the role of president at Hawthorn. What does the process look like to becoming president? Is it a typical sort of interview, or does it work very uniquely? How does that look?
Well, yeah, until I decided to put my hand up, it had typically been at Hawthorn a fairly uncontroversial process. Someone was identified as the successor, and in our case, it's always been a male. He has probably had a bit of time of crossover with the former president, or the president about to step down. But in my case, I actually ran in contrast to what the board wanted at the time. So I put my hand up, and I was an alternate presidential candidate than the candidate that the board had endorsed, basically. So we had a contested election, and I can't remember the last time Hawthorn had a contested election for president. And something that's important to know is that Hawthorn's the only club that has a separate vote for the role of president. With every other club, they vote the directors in, and the board chooses who the president is.
Yep.
At Hawthorn, it's different. And frankly, it's probably not the ideal way from a governance point of view, but that's the system at the moment. And so I was part of an election. So I campaigned, and the number one thing I campaigned on was unity, unifying the club. I just felt like we were drifting apart a bit in some areas, and so it was quite a public process. And
were you out there on Glenferrie Road with a sign and all that? Or?
Not quite, but I did a fair bit of media, and we did some Zoom. Like conferences, I suppose, Zoom calls where we spoke to members that were interested in, what I was on about and what I wanted to.
So it was the members who were voting on this decision?
Yeah, the members, yeah. And it's a voluntary thing. So what I was trying to do was, I guess, engender some passion in encouraging people to vote and to vote for me. Because I really felt very passionate about the changes that I felt Hawthorn could make. And, but the number one thing I wanted was unity and making sure that we are as unified as possible. And even when you think you've got 100% unity, there are always people that, you'll never get everybody agreeing with every decision you make or we make. So perhaps it's true that the definition of unity never quite gets reached or achieved, but as close as you can, that's what I wanted to try and bring about. And it's a work in progress still, so we're almost 3 years down the track, but the club is definitely in good shape, and most members tell me when I bump into members that they're happy with the direction of the club, and they're having fun, they're enjoying it, and we've announced a record membership the week that we're recording this, so just over 87,000 members. We've also announced. We've smashed through our biggest ever attendance figure. So we've had over 456,000 people attend our home games this year. We've had an average of over 62,000 attend our MCG games, home games. So, they're good numbers, but I think the thing that's more important to me than pure numbers is the excitement and the expectation that our members have. So both our AFLW team and our AFL team are competitive. They're fun to watch. I think the brand of football is a good one. So credit to both coaching programs there. And it's Hockball is sort of right, and I have no responsibility for Hockball whatsoever. No one can actually tell me what the complete definition of Hock is. No one knows; it's a mystery. But it is an exciting brand of footy, and we're a happy team at Hawthorn.
Well, as a fan, I can say it's as fun a time to be a fan as I can remember. So. I think the Bulldogs final last year, I remember thinking like, this is as good a win as I can remember celebrating.
Yes,
So.
it was fun. And we hadn't been there for a while.
No, exactly, which I think made it a lot sweeter.
Yeah, I think it did. So anyway, look, when I got elected, one of the things that we talked a lot about was growth is never linear. It's never a straight line. It's like the share market. It goes up and down, but overall you hope that you're trending upwards. And that's the way that we feel. And right now, as we record this, it's 2 days out from week 1 of the finals, which we're in. We're about to play the Giants. And I have no idea whether we're going to win or lose. I'm confident we'll win, but I'm sure the Giants are as well. But I guess the broader sort of view that I have is that if we win or lose, I think people are comfortable with where we're at. We'll all be very sad if we don't win on Saturday. But I think overall people, and I think I'd be included in this, I'm comfortable with where we're headed. And, we've been fortunate to win a premiership in every decade since our first one. We're the only club to have been able to do that. And time's ticking down. It's 2025. So we're halfway through this decade. And we're keen to see our next one, both in the W and the men's.
Let's talk about what goes on at a board level. To give people an idea of sort of the things that reach you, what are a few agenda items that have come up in the last couple of board meetings that you've been at?
Well, we've had a standing item as one of those most important ones is the Kennedy Community Centre, which is our new home. So we've been talking a lot about the Kennedy Community Centre, including the last 2 board meetings. And the good news on that front is that 2 weeks ago we accepted the keys from the builder, and that's actually a physical moment that actually happens. People have laughed when I say, we get the keys. What, you actually get the keys? Yeah, they give us the keys. So we have the keys. We will move in on October 3. And so we are now in the process of planning that move. And it's a bigger move than moving house, I can assure you. There's a lot of logistical planning going behind that. So we talk about that all the time. We talk about so I talked about some of the numbers before. That's why some of them are etched in my brain, because we went through all of our key performance indicators for the year. And the football year for us finishes at the end of October, so there's a little bit of time to go. But membership, the cut-off for that has finished, so that 87,200 and something, that's in the book. That's official. So we went through all of those numbers, and it was a good opportunity for the directors to give credit to management about the performance so far. And yes, hopefully our W team have finals ahead of them, and our men have more than one final ahead of them. So we're right on the cusp of what happens performance-wise on the field. But off the field, Kennedy Community Centre is one big one. Going through our performance, how we're going on and off the field, they're probably two of the most relevant.
With regard to the Kennedy Centre, are there any decisions that get made at board level, or are you more sort of guiding the management that's in charge of those processes?
Well, it's a combination. Management, the way that it should work really is that management make the decisions, and the board are there to provide counsel, to prosecute, thinking, to think strategically about things. So looking to the future, and a great example with the Kennedy Community Centre is, well, what does it look like beyond stage 1? So stage 1 is now. We're almost finished. There's a little bit of landscaping, there's furniture to move in, just the finishing touches before we move in on October 3. But what does stage 2 look like? What does stage 3 look like? And one of the things that Hawthorn is weighing up very, very carefully is what does our commercial future look like? So post non-merger, which was 1996, we have been very, very focused, and we had to be, on making sure our finances are in really good order. So decisions have been made to get involved into businesses and ventures that have underwritten the financial foundation of the club. And that's really important, not just in times when you're doing well on the field, but in times when you're not doing so well. And, you do face these moments. When I came in as president, we had a very, very young list. We're still fairly young, but not the youngest anymore. Incredibly young list, developing lots of talent, but very young. So we finished 16th on the field in 2023, but showed lots of good signs of development and improvement. But because we finished 16th, there's no finals. Merchandise isn't quite as high. There are flow-on effects across all elements of your club, financially, I mean. So what does that look like in a world where you have peaks and troughs? And if you're in a bit of a trough for whatever reason or reasons, it's really helpful, particularly for a club such as ours that has faced, almost merging with another club because of financial difficulties. And so that's part of our DNA. So we very much have that at the forefront of our thinking, and it informs a lot of our decision making. Because I think Hawthorn over the journey has been a reasonably conservative club, but we've had to look more aggressively in an entrepreneurial way at things in order to set ourselves up financially. And so what does that look like from here? Well, we're weighing all those things up right now.
So do you see the Kennedy Centre as a community sort of hub, but also an additional revenue stream? Because I believe... I think Richmond might have been the first to do it with the Belgravia sort of centres that they got involved in, and then they set up the Richmond Institute of Sport as well, where you can come and study, which Hawthorn now does as well.
Yes.
Are these the sort of new revenue streams that you guys are talking about at board level?
Absolutely. So I mean we've got the Hawthorn College of Sport in conjunction with Box Hill Institute. It's a great example. So that's something that we've started in the last year. Going exceptionally well. I've met the students and they're loving the program. We've just launched in Tassie as well, so we're expanding there. And what that looks like in the future, who knows where that could expand to. So that's a great example. But then also using the Kennedy Community Centre site for other things that I would describe as football adjacent. So, for example, we're weighing up the merits of a high ball centre. So netball, basketball, etc. There's a huge demand in the southeastern area, and that's something that perhaps the Kennedy Community Centre could help solve, which would be good for sport, great for the community, and good for Hawthorn. So I think those types of opportunities where everybody benefits, why wouldn't we entertain those?
Do you think you could reel off all the different revenue streams of Hawthorn?
I could. It'd take a long time, but
because there are a lot of people who are wondering, like, how does a football club make money? They say the tickets and membership, but what else is there?
Well, membership is a very important one, but we've got commercial partnerships. So, Tasmania is our major commercial partner, and that's been a 25-year partnership, and they're our major sponsor. So, commercial partnerships, we have coterie groups. So those people pay to be members of the various coterie groups, and a lot of that money flows back to the club. Merchandise is another one. So our merchandise sales at the moment are number one in the competition.
Wow.
Yeah, so and Hock is a big part of that.
Actually, I have a question on this because last year, Jack Ginnivan and Nick Watson came out with the Hock T-shirts, selling them from their Instagram.
Yes.
And I did wonder, what was the conversation being had at Hawthorn, given they were using the rights of the club?
Yes.
To, I think, put money in their own pocket.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're doing that anymore.
Okay.
That might answer that subtly. But yeah, so there are also, I mean, we had so in order to fund the Kennedy Community Centre, this is not profit making. This is paying for the building and the development and so on. we have a foundation, and the foundation raised money in order to fund the Kennedy Community Centre. So we've got support from federal government, state government, local government, and the AFL. They have, all of those all those entities have contributed significant money. So federal and state, $15 million each. Local government and AFL, $5 million each. We had a pool of money that we'd made from the sale of some businesses that we've had in the past, and they involved gaming machines and food and beverage and so on. But we've sold out of those, and very profitably. So, administrations past have done a great job in setting the club up financially post the merger. And look, even if I go back to the merger, one of the amazing things. So, when I was at uni, I did an assignment on it was a strategic marketing assignment, and my lecturer at the time was a Hawthorn supporter, and it was a bit like a PhD thesis in that you could choose any topic that you liked that was strategic marketing based, but you had to get approval from the head of the subject to do it. He had to prove it, and my topic was. From a strategic marketing point of view, what could the Hawthorn Football Club do to increase its membership? This was in 1993, I think it was. Anyway, so and the reason I did it was I couldn't compute why Hawthorn was such a successful club through the 80s and the very early 90s. We won the premiership in 91, the one that I played in. But why didn't we have a very big member? We had a tiny membership. We were at the time about 10 or 11,000 members. It just didn't compute. So I did this strategic marketing assignment on things that they could do, Hawthorn could do to increase membership, etc. But it took almost folding and merging with Melbourne to actually rally the troops and get supporters to become members. And that's really important because that money goes straight to the bottom line of every club. So membership is the most important. I mean, every bit of revenue helps.
Yep.
But your membership is so important because that's a reflection not only financially, but it's a reflection of how your supporters feel about your club, in my mind.
So the notion of if you're a supporter of a club, you must be a member is perhaps only something really of the last 20 years, it sounds
It's fairly
like.
recent, yeah. And Hawthorn came up with a fantastic membership campaign, which was proud, passionate, and paid up. Because we had a lot of proud and passionate supporters, but the implication was if you're not paid up, you're not that proud, you're not that passionate.
Yep.
So history will show, I think membership more than doubled from 1996 to 1997 and so on. And we've basically been a juggernaut membership-wise ever since, and now we're pushing 90,000 members. And Ruben, it's not just the top number. It's also, the pride and the passion also comes down to the levels of membership that people take out. And we've got a fantastic membership base. And I say we're the best club because we've got the best members. That was one of the first things I said when I accepted the presidency at the Hawthorn Town Hall at the AGM in 2022. Because you do get asked a lot of the time, why is Hawthorn so successful? Why is Hawthorn so good? And I reckon, you're a reflection of your membership. And I reckon we've got the best members. Every club will think it's got the best members, but I think we've got the best members.
I would agree.
Of course you would.
Yeah. What about things that Hawthorn looking at in the future? Are there any new projects, initiatives, or revenue streams that are currently being floated as tests that might take the club forward?
Yep. So I mentioned the Highball Centre. That's an example. We're looking at whether a medical centre makes sense at the Kennedy Community Centre.
Okay.
We're looking at, the College of Sport I mentioned. That's something that, who knows where that could go? Who knows what levels of tertiary, that could be a postgraduate level of study. Joint ventures, what joint ventures make sense for us? The thing about the site at Dingley, the Kennedy Community Centre, is that it's a green wedge site and it's a former industrial landfill site. So there are certain limitations on what we can and can't do on that site. But our hope is that, and our plan really is that as the community of Dingley and the southeast gets to know Hawthorn better in that area, including the local council and so on, and the residents, I'm very confident that they'll understand that Hawthorn is a very community-minded club. When we are in an area and when we do something, we do it with the community in mind, and we are the family club. Not just in name, we actually live and breathe it. So we want to help the community. We want to give the community access to our home, and it's their home as much as ours. And it's in the name, the Kennedy Community Centre. It's right in the middle of our name. So arguably the most important person in the history of the football club, John Kennedy Senior. But that community-minded approach to things will always guide our decision making. And I hope it always does. And so any business venture that we consider always has to have that in mind.
With regard to like the sort of financial cycles of a football club, are they fairly steady year to year because it is a repeatable season? For example, like when I was at Cricket Australia, the CFO would come in and explain like that cricket works in a 4-year cycle. You make all your money in an Ashes year or when India tour, and then you budget for a loss when, say, the West Indies or Pakistan, New Zealand come and tour.
Yeah.
How does that work with regard to a football club?
Yeah, so unlike cricket, where maybe an Ashes tour is highly profitable and others not so much, with football, it's more in-season fluctuations that you see. So the higher drawing or the bigger the game, the more money typically you would make if you're the home side. And, you get to at least financially capitalise on extra things off field. So, merchandise, corporate sales, functions that you're running on the night, there's more demand because the bigger clubs, more people want to watch. And so it's more of an in-season fluctuation that you see, peaks and troughs financially, than, because I suppose cricket's sort of a longer cycle. So it's more in-season, I think.
How stark is the difference between saying like having a home game against Collingwood at the MCG versus, having the Gold Coast Suns come from a, revenue per game point of view?
Yeah, well, for us, it is a big difference, really big difference. So it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. But for us, it actually works really well for us because those lower drawing sides, we tend to play in Tasmania. And Tassie, the ground capacity is about 17,000, 18,000. So this year I think we've had on average about 15,000 per game.
Yep.
In Tassie, might be fractioning under that, but thereabouts. So we get a really good crowd into UTAS Stadium, and so it financially it actually works out well for us, and yeah, so we manage that fairly well. We're quite fortunate in that regard.
With regard to being president, and I guess perhaps like the pulling power that you have and the influence you can have on people involved in the club, are there any sort of like 1%ers that you do behind the scenes to bring someone back to the club or motivate someone who might just need a conversation with the press? Are those little non-scalable things that you do behind the scenes?
Yeah, there's quite a bit, and a coffee goes a long way. Just a one-on-one chat. You do have to be careful because if you accept everything that you're invited to, you don't have much of a life other than that. And it is a voluntary role, so you need to be mindful of that. But look, the short answer, Ruben, is being human. Just keeping your heart open to, and your brain, but I think mainly your heart open to how people are feeling about the club. Being interested in the way they feel about the club. Asking questions, being curious about how they feel. And I went through that myself. So I'm trying to pay forward what happened to me. So I got traded by Hawthorn to Brisbane. I came back and Ian Dicker, who was president at the time, he channeled, for me, a wonderful experience in that he said, how do you feel about this club? And I said, oh, look, I don't feel that welcome or that good about it. And he said, do you mind telling me why? And I said, well, I didn't really want to be traded when it happened. I said I embraced my new club when I went there, but I said, ideally I would have stayed at Hawthorn. And he said, all right, can I have a think about maybe a way that you could be, feel welcome back in the club and leave that with me? I said, absolutely, that'd be great. So a few days later, he rang me and he said, look, would you come to the jumper presentation at the social club, the old social club in Linda Crescent? So this is 2000, maybe 2001. Mm-hmm. Would you come along and present Nick Rees with the number 16 jumper, which was my old number? Because he's a new player and we'd love you to present him with that jumper. Would you consider doing that? I said, I'd love to do that. So I came along, and honestly, I felt completely welcome and completely back in the fold from that night onwards. And so that was a fantastic example for me of just a simple thing that Ian did. He spent a bit of time. He was curious enough to wonder about it. He followed that up by actually asking me. He listened to my response carefully, and then he took some action. And I think that's a great example of what you can do. Sometimes it's on a bigger scale. Sometimes it's a one-on-one discussion with a member or a lapsed member or a supporter or a past player or somebody in our broader Hawthorn family that is not feeling as good as they can about our club. And so to the degree that I can, I do what I can to help that. And that might be... So look, sometimes it's... Someone's disgruntled about something, and you can action that by asking, Ash Klein, our CEO, or Jeremy Millard, our membership head, or someone within the organisation. Libby Hammond, who's one of the keys in our club, doesn't get talked about enough. She's executive assistant to Ash Klein and a legend. Is there something we can do? Someone's sick, and they want something to brighten their day or help them. So we do. We've got 87,200 members, so it's hard. Not everyone can have a coffee, but where you can, you do what you can.
Yep. It's interesting, like hearing the similarities to what you explained there to what happens at like a grassroots club as well, because I've had friends have been disgruntled at different stages.
It's the same.
Exactly right.
It's no different. No different at all at any level of sporting organisation. They're the same issues. Just at the professional end, you've got more people to deal with, and you get more publicity. A lot of things happen under the radar, but some things can appear in the media, and you've always got to be mindful of that. It's an extra element.
What does the role of a president look like week to week? Because it sounds like there's something different going on all the time, but how would you explain the sort of regularity of it?
Yeah, so we meet as a board on average about every sort of 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. We don't meet every single month, but I think we have 9 meetings a year. So there's a cadence to that, and there's during the board meeting, make sure you're capturing the minutes, you're making decisions, management are presenting various things that they're keen to do and updating you, informing you, sometimes getting guidance on various things that are looking to be done, reporting back on how things have gone. So, here's an example. Membership is booming. So, feeling good about that. And that didn't just happen. That's years of planning. And, a lot of the building blocks for that result were put in place years ago. So, we're young, we're inexperienced, we're 16th in 23, but the building blocks for building up that membership were already in place by then. And so it's checking in, it's being updated. It's a lot of communication, it's a lot of relationship building, it's attending events, it's speaking in the media, it's doing things like this, podcasts, it's formal communication. So writing to people when congratulating them on achievements. An example of attending an event is going to the Hall of Fame and, celebrating with Sam Mitchell and celebrating with Luke Hodge and celebrating with Jason Dunstall and so on, people who are being honoured and, giving them a pat on the back and thanking them for their amazing service. There's a symbolic element to it. So, representing the club when the Glenferrie Oval redevelopment is happening. Now, we don't control Glenferrie Oval, the council does, Burundara, but checking in with the council and, they want Hawthorn to have some kind of presence at Glenferrie Oval. So there'll be something there when the Michael Tuck stand is reopened and Glenferrie Oval is operational again. So and look, the thing that I always say, and I love channeling Alan Jeans here, you don't have to like me, but I insist that you respect the position that I hold. And I think that is such a key concept. And Alan Jeans would say that all the time about his position as coach. I don't expect you to like me, but I insist that you respect the position I hold. And I think that's a great life lesson.
Yep. One of the particularly difficult situations that you've come in at president during has been the issue between the club and its Indigenous players as well. How do you go about, I guess, coming in at the point in time that you did with where that was at and mediating that as well?
Yeah, so that was an extremely complex matter and very, 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 very difficult period. And for a lot of people. So on both sides, if you like, of the discussion and the scenario. So I go back to something I said before, Ruben. I think the human side of things was critical to focus on, and this is within a maelstrom of media activity, legal action, all kinds of really complex and difficult realities. But I think if you go back to the heart of things, you have call them one group of people who are all very unhappy with the club, and if you go to its absolute heart of that matter, it was an unhappiness with the club. And so my view was, well, let's find out why they're unhappy with the club, anyone, and what we can do about it. And in any situation where you've got differences of opinion, and I've said this a number of times, I think it's really important to focus on what unites us, not what divides us. And that's a really simple, it's a simple line, but it's very hard to execute. And through a series of, a number of discussions and effort, care and concern for all involved, we're able to get to a position where we've resolved that matter, and we're not building bridges, we're rebuilding bridges. So that was one of the most important concepts that was at the front of all of our minds is, we've burnt some bridges here. We need to rebuild, and so we're doing that. That is not a line in the sand moment, to borrow a phrase. That's an ongoing relationship building exercise, and we want to. I had the experience of being welcomed back into the club when I had the jumper presentation moment, and I hope for all those people they have maybe a series of moments where they do feel welcome back at the club and they do feel better and their relationship with our club does improve, and they'll feel better about things.
Well, I know as a fan, it was great to see Cyril even just attending a Hawks game when they played the Gold Coast up north, and to see him be part of the Legends game as well too, which I'm sure is all part of the great work going on behind the scenes. But for a moment or an issue like that, where have your lessons in leadership been developed from to kind of handle something as sensitive as this? Is it through the books you've read? Is it through past mentors and other people? Where would you say your leadership has been taught from?
Look, a combination of areas. So they're, I guess, practical experience. So, I've captained sides, I've coached sides, I've been an assistant coach, all kinds of roles in and around footy and other sports as well, cricket and so on. So there's an element of that. So on the ground experience, leading, observing. I love watching leaders, whether it be other coaches, prime ministers, CEOs, and whether it's a formal titled leadership, so someone who has a title, or leadership without a title. So there's another recommendation. Robin Sharma, Lead Without a Title. You see there are great examples of leadership everywhere, and it doesn't have to be beating your chest. It doesn't have to be shouting from the rooftops. It doesn't have to be public. There are moments where a quiet word to someone, a hug, a hand on a shoulder, listening without interrupting someone, listening, this has happened a lot, this has come up a lot, but listening to understand versus listening to respond. Respect, humility, knowing when to be quiet, knowing when it's your turn to speak and, your turn to convey, a message or a learning or praise, gratitude, all those emotions and when too as well, just reading the timing of it. You don't get all of these things right all the time, and you're always learning. And I think, you can learn from people who are much younger than you. You can learn from people who are much older. You can learn from all kinds of people in all kinds of situations. So I think there are leadership lessons everywhere. And, as we've both touched on, the absolute joy, and it's more than joy, it's really a privilege, the privilege of learning, the privilege of actually being better yourself by taking on things and being open to taking on things from any source. I think that's probably been the biggest, I'm looking for the right word here, biggest influence, I'd say, on my leadership thoughts is just be open to learn from anyone.
If you had to drill down on, say, one or two names who have been the biggest influence on your career, either on the field or off the field, who would they be?
Well, it's a really hard question, Ruben, because I've got mentors. I've had coaches, every coach, every mentor, and as I said before, some of these mentors I haven't met. I haven't yet met Richard Branson. I'm going to meet Richard Branson as a result of this. It's a great outcome from this podcast for me. But look, my father was a mentor to me, and I've learned a lot from him. My grandfather, my mum's dad, learned a lot from him. My brother, I've picked up a lot of inspiration from my brother, who's younger than me and had some challenges in life, but he's the most courageous person I've ever met. My wife, Anna, she is the most caring, yes, but she's the most thoughtful person I've ever met, and she's an absolute legend. Look, my mum, mum's been very, very influential in my life. My kids, my own flesh and blood, they've taught me ever since they were each born. They teach you lessons all the time. I have 2 grandkids now. I'm learning from them. So look, I could go on. We haven't got enough time, but lots and lots of people have influenced who I am today and who I'm becoming. Some days are different. You change as you get older, but I've been very, very, very fortunate with the people that I've got. My circle is very important to me, and they're a great bunch of people.
Last one before we wrap up, but where has this role stretched you? Whether it be in the decisions you've had to make, or whether it be balancing it with the rest of life as it is a volunteer role. Where would you say the role of president has stretched you?
Well, it's stretched me in every way, I think. I think it's something that I didn't leap to take on. I didn't leap to put my hand up. It took me a long time to actually put my hand up and say, I could be the right person now to do this. I remember my wife said to me, look, I think you'll be great at this, and I fully support you putting your hand up, but why now? And I said, because the club needs me now. And I compare it with having a baby. There is no perfect time to have a baby, and the baby arrives when the baby arrives. And very similarly, with this role, was it the ideal time in my life to take this on? No, but there's no ideal time, and I just felt like the club did need this now, and But no, look, it stretched me in every way. It is hard combining business and personal life. I don't spend as much time as I used to with my friends. It's very, very difficult. I don't have as much time. So that's been a real challenge. And so I'm very mindful of that, and that doesn't sit all that comfortably with me. But yeah, it's stretched me in every possible way. And I'm still learning. I'm still growing in the role. There was no manual that I was given, when I stepped into it. I didn't get a handover. I had to get to know the board members individually as well as collectively. Senior executives, I didn't know that well. Various, what we call stakeholders around the club, I needed to get to know, and vice versa. And, there was an element of, why is this guy doing this? Because I wasn't the endorsed candidate, and I had a different view on things, and I provided my services, as an alternative, and the members chose to go this way, and I hope I'm holding true to what they want to happen with our great club. But I'm excited about what's around the corner, and who knows, by the time this goes to air, we may have won some finals.
Let's hope so.
Who knows?
You mentioned Hawthorn operates in terms. What would you like to have seen completed by the time that your term is up? What will feel like you've done everything you've wanted to do in the role?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned unity before. I'd love for that to build. The Kennedy Community Centre being a thriving place for the community to go, including all of our members and fans. One of the things I was really keen on, well, not just keen on, committed to doing, is having a succession mindset amongst the club. So that means you're always thinking about who's going to be replacing you, and a good process, and making sure that the governance is done exceptionally well. So a succession mindset throughout the place. We're here for an uncertain amount of time. In some cases, it's a bit more certain, but an uncertain amount of time. You do your best for the time that you're there, but you also have an eye on the best, so appropriate time and appropriate person to replace you. So I think if you have those things front and centre, to borrow a footy term, then that's a really, really, it's not just positive, but I think that's the way that the club should run, and organisations should run that way, frankly. And I guess the last thing I hope has happened is that every single person within the club, as close as possible, puts the club first. If you put the club first, and this is true for any organisation, but if you put the Hawthorn Football Club first and make decisions with that in mind, and sometimes it's hard because you have to put yourself second, but if you put the football club first, you can't go too far wrong.
People often ask me, like, Ruben, is there any role in sport that you would step out of sports grad to take on? And there's only one that really grabs me, and that is yours. So thank you for coming on. It's been
might happen one day.
Yeah, maybe. In 20 years' time, I might be looking back on this interview. Yeah. But thank you for coming in, sharing your journey, and sharing everything that goes on at the top.
No worries. Thank you very much, Ruben.
Hey guys, quick one. Are you either A, dreading going back to work tomorrow, or B, on a mission to fulfill your potential and get there as quickly as possible? If so, then you need to apply for the Sports Grad Method program. The program is designed to help you get a full-time job in sport as quickly as possible, and inside it, I distill the lessons I've learned from asking over 300 people how they got a job in sport. I'm talking professionals from the AFL, Premier League, cricket, NBA, Olympics, you name it. And I've combined it with the methods that not only got me hired by Cricket Australia before graduating, but also helped me double my salary during COVID. Sports Grad has helped people land over 700 roles in sport, and this program takes the guesswork out of an industry where most people think you need to get lucky. To apply for the Sports Grad Method program, head to www.sportsgrad.com.au/program.